Hi, this is Mr. Mullaney. We're recapping our second lesson about the Renaissance here. So we'll start off with a couple of authors. And the first one is Niccolo Machiavelli. His famous work is The Prince. So Machiavelli, anything that's Machiavellian has to do with scheming for power. All right. The Prince was a book written kind of as a how-to guide for a dictator, for a prince, for a king in Europe during the Renaissance. And so it has become this document that anyone who's studying leadership absolutely has to read. All right. So he believed that it'd be great to be feared and it would be great to be loved. But according to Machiavelli, it's better to be feared than loved. Love is fleeting. It comes and it goes, but fear will keep people in line. If you ever watch The Office, Michael Scott is the leader of The Office, and he says, I don't want to have to choose between being feared and being loved. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me. I don't think that's what Machiavelli had in mind. But anyway, all right, second author. And it was this man, Dante. So this is Dante. Dante wrote a couple of very important books. One is the Divine Comedy, and one is the Inferno. Dante's Inferno, by the way, I heard on Sports Radio 97.5, The Fanatic, the other day, Anthony Gargano, the morning host, using Dante's Inferno to talk about Chip Kelly and the Eagles. I kid you not, that happened. Actually, no, it was about the Phillies because things aren't going very well for the Phillies. Anyway, the big contribution of Dante that we're going to focus on is the fact that he writes in Italian. Hey, Mr. Mullaney, he's Italian. What's the big deal? Here's the big deal. The big deal is that he wrote in Italian, not Latin. Italian was the language of the people. And so he made it very, very clear that he believed that Italian was just as good as Latin, which wasn't really spoken by the people. Today, Latin's a dead language. So anyway, that was a big development, and that's Dante's big contribution. All right, and then we get into a couple of artists, and one is named Michelangelo. This is not Michelangelo, but this is his most impressive work. It is the Sistine Chapel. Now, he has a few great works, but the Sistine Chapel is the ceiling of this church where he has to go. It takes him 4 years to complete, and he has to get on a scaffold and then lay so that he's painting the ceiling like this. And look at the beautiful detail. If you're looking at it from below, look at the detail. This had perspective. Remember we talked about how in medieval art, there wasn't much perspective and there wasn't much appreciation for human anatomy. These painters in the Renaissance study human anatomy so that their paintings are very, very realistic. And lastly, we talked about Leonardo da Vinci. Da Vinci was someone, so Michelangelo, he's someone who did, he did buildings, he did poetry, he did sculpture, he did painting. Leonardo da Vinci, another master painter, but he's also an architect. He's a city planner. He's an engineer. He's an inventor. He's a map maker. All right. So, by the way, between being city planner and architect, this guy would be George Costanza's hero. Seinfeld reference. My apologies. But if you notice, both he and Leonardo and Michelangelo are doing all these different things. These are amazing ranges of skills, and we call that Renaissance men. So if you're a Renaissance man, you're very good at many different things. All right. And lastly, so not only are they both Renaissance men, but they're both Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The names of the 4 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles come from the 4 Renaissance painters. But in this case, we're only going to study Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. So that's Renaissance Part 2.